Hey everyone, welcome to another My Life in Objects. I thought I'd share a book that I was basically gifted, received it as a present, and it was one of these sort of requested presents. I'd seen the book on the shelves when I'd done a visit to the UK a few months ago, and the title and my quick flick through had sort of stuck with me. So yeah, it was on my list. I sort of run this list, I don't know if anybody else does this, in Amazon, so that if family members are a bit short of ideas for you of stuff to give you at Christmas or around your birthday, or any other reason, it's there, and this was on my list. So yeah, I've received this in the last couple of months, and yeah, it's pretty transformational for me. What was nice about it is that it's forced me to revisit a sort of way of operating, a way of living that I used to do before, and this would be many years ago, but before I started to adopt a more sort of goal obsessed strategy. So this was nice for me because it sort of brought back to me, in some ways, like a simpler way of operating, a more organic, a more osmotic way of operating. So yeah, if you sort of feel burdened in a sort of goal obsessed world, this is a really good book. The other thing I found, and I bought it just after this, and I'll do a separate episode on it, is this book works really well with the BJ Fogg book, Tiny Habits. They work really well together. So if you're thinking about getting this book, or you already own Tiny Habits, or you're looking for something to read after you've read this, then I would definitely recommend reading Tiny Habits. The actual order I don't think matters. I read this first and then read Tiny Habits afterwards. So this is about 235 pages long. In Canada, it is predominantly available in the hardback edition, and there are paperback copies out there, I believe, in certain regions. But I've got this rather nice hardback edition, and yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I think you're pretty sure, I'll include a link if I can find it. You can read the first chapter online. I'll see if I can find some extracts from the book, or any podcast episodes where they've interviewed the author. I'll also include a link to this Nest Labs as well. I'm actually subscribed to their newsletter. So I'm due to do a second reading of this book. What I tend to do with books like this is I'll do a first reading, and then once I've done that, I sort of try and get just in the first reading of the broad philosophy of the book, and then just from that start sort of implementing some of the ideas, and I find that a little bit easier to do than sort of wholeheartedly sort of trying to implement everything straight away. I work quite well from I suppose you'd call it like top-down approach, and I find if I do that, I find it a bit easier once I get down to the granular stuff. So you'll probably notice on the channel already, I've got quite a number of IT-based things that have the term tiny experiments in them. That's not to say this book is specifically aimed at that domain, but I just found it really useful for learning to code by doing a series of sort of tiny experiments. And this book is incredibly readable. I think I actually read it in a day, and if not a couple of days. I just sort of sat down, allocated cleared my filming schedule, cleared my coding schedule, all those sort of things, got my morning walk out of the way, and then just went through and read the book cover to cover. And I think what happened was probably I read the bulk of it in one day, and then just finished off with the final chapters, probably something like that. But I know it's the first time I've sat down with a book like that and read it in a day. Something I used to do like years ago, and I found as I've got older, I've actually had quite trouble with focusing when I'm reading. But with this book, this book's really worked for me in so many different ways, actually. And you can sort of see by the title, it takes some interesting angles on things. Nicely laid out. I would like a nicely sort of formatted book. The chapters are nice and manageable. That's why I was sort of able to read it. I find that when you get sort of nice chapters that are really easy to chunk down, they always lend themselves well to reading, in the course of a day or so. It's the long chapter books I always have an issue with, just maintaining my concentration, maintaining my focus. I really like the idea in the book, actually, of this idea of, because the experiments are tiny, if they go wrong, it's not a big deal. And that actually was a real, in some ways, an epiphany for me, because we've all had this, particularly actually in coding, where you sort of spend ages working on something and it actually doesn't go quite according to plan, and you've already sort of spent a week, 2 week prototyping, and it feels really bad. What's nice with tiny experiments, particularly with coding, is if you're sort of just doing little tiny modules, functions, working on those, it doesn't feel so bad if you've literally sort of spent an hour on something and it doesn't quite go according to plan. That was really quite cool. Pause, taking a break. So again, if you're sort of struggling with what's the best way to think of this? If you're sort of struggling with overload, or I don't know, I find it's really useful writing myself, getting my direction good. I'm just struggling for the right description here, but I've found it's useful. We've been through a period, well, I certainly have, and I think a lot of other people, where things got really intense, and for whatever reason, you find yourself sort of post burnout, and you're sort of stuck in this almost like voracious position where you're sort of pursuing more and more things, because you've been through a period where your nose has really been to the grindstone. And this book's been really helpful in sort of sorting that out, if I'm making sense. We've got things like stuff on social flow as well. The thing I liked about this is that it's a sort of really gentle book, if that's a good way to describe it. Again, the emphasis is on little incremental steps, so that's why it works well with tiny habits. And there's all sorts of really useful areas that it explores, which, again, if you're sort of trying to break out of this sort of more goal orientated approach to life, yeah, it's great. It's all the sort of things that usually come up. So it's very, predictable is the wrong word, but yeah, there's a high utility to this book in that probably the sort of things you might be wrestling with if you are sort of dealing with burnout or just trying to not to feel you're on a sort of hamster wheel. This is great for that. And now what I like about this as well, it's got this nice experimentalist toolkit at the end, which effectively summarises everything. But you could start from here and then dig into it. I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's a book that I wouldn't say demand, but is worthy of reading cover to cover several times. And like I said, I need to do a second pass on this and maybe formulate better some of the ideas. But yeah, it's a cool book. I thoroughly recommend it. So yeah, if it sort of sounds like it's up your alley and you're trying to get out of a goal obsessed situation, or you're lucky enough to be in a position where you can do that, because that's sometimes quite hard, then yeah, definitely a good read. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.